thanks so much again for being here, Red. Officially, certainly a friend of mine and a friend of the show. So it is fantastic to have you back on here, I think, for a third time.
Oh, is it 3? Oh my goodness.
Technically, yeah, you had some friends with you last time, but
okay. Thank you. Well, thank you. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Laura Hightower and Mr. Ramapelli.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic. So I've been excited to have you back talking about the newest book that you have coming out, Gaslight or Bloodstains by Gaslight, which, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, you have it there? Oh,
I just got the paperbacks in.
Oh, very nice. Good timing. That is really cool. So you never know if I should just get it on my tablet and show it or anything, but it never shows up properly. Yeah. So I'm glad that you had that on hand. So no, I've really been excited to talk to you about this one and your brand of vampires, which they definitely don't sparkle. They're just nothing nice about them. But before we kind of really get into the meat of the book, if I'm not mistaken, I think you've had this book cooking for a little while, haven't you? From when you first wrote it to now being able to first finally see it in your hands there.
Mm-hmm. So this one I wrote in 2021. It was 2021. I was working on that, but originally it goes back as far as 2014. Actually, I wrote another novel that same subject matter, no vampires though. But so this one's been brewing for a long time.
Wow. So the one that you wrote in 2014 then, so was did you sort of beef that up and that's what you took to make this book then? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a completely different book. Completely different. The one in 2014, I didn't even know how to write. How to write in 2014. Yeah. I knew I wanted to tell my story of what I went through in a fictionalized way. And so it was more like a YA contemporary tragedy type book. Okay. It was terrible, absolutely terrible. But that was the story and it never saw the light of day. It never did anything with it. And then I settled into horror and 2021 came along and I figured it's time to write the correct version of the story.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. And what do you think it is that took you that, was there a lot of different manifestations from this book, or was it just, I mean, obviously everybody had so much angst, around 2021, right after, the year of the COVID kind of thing, even though it's still going on. Mm-hmm. But this one, obviously, when it comes to angst, is a lot more personal for you. I know it really dove into a terrible relationship that you had as a teenager. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the reason it took so long to kind of from 2021 to now 2025 coming out, or tell us about that?
Maybe. Well, a part of the problem was I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, from 2014 to probably about 2017 or so, I was learning a lot. I was doing writing classes and just absorbing as much as I could about how to write. And I was practicing with short stories and whatnot. And then, I don't know, I just really kind of settled into horror. And so there wasn't room for this story because it wasn't a horror story that I wrote in 2014. And I just figured that was my practice novel. So I left it off to the side and, it was my purge of all my childhood trauma went into all that. So I didn't think anything of it until, about 2020, 2021. And it wasn't COVID that triggered me. It was a very strange event. I saw somebody out in public. Saw a very familiar face, but it wasn't him. It looked so much like the guy who had caused so much harm in my teen years. So much so that I had a physical reaction. I was sweating. My heart was racing, and I knew it couldn't be him. He was young. He was it was not him. But just seeing that face that looked so familiar triggered a physical response. And I do still have, even to this day, even after being in a healthy relationship for 25 years, I still have physical responses to certain triggers. And that's what happened in 2021. I realized I'm still living with this. And I'm still living with this, and it's crazy because I thought it was okay. And it kind of annoyed me that a lot of people seem to think that abuse victims, once if they've if they're fortunate enough to escape the abuser, that they're okay after that. That everything's fine. You know, they go on and they live their lives. And for the most part, that was true for me. But there's still a little bit of that stuck with me forever. It's never going to go away.
Yeah, and it's I've often heard psychologists and certainly people far smarter than I talking about trauma and the complex PTSD, which is, you think, well, yeah, trauma is complex in itself, right? But complex PTSD, it is just as it's labeled, is it's so much more complex, and that it's very much like a car crash where you have this thing seared right into your memory, and it really does become part of your wiring. It's it tries to hide from you, I guess, to protect you, but then, like you said, once in a while something like that pops up, that there's just a sort of familiarity, and almost like your brain's trying to protect you. It all brings it out to the forefront, which I guess it's got good meaning. It's like, run away, we sense danger here, but at the same time it's like, fuck, I thought that was back, I thought that was gone.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's insane what our brains do to protect us, and then how they remind us that it's instinctive. It's very much instinctive, because I can be with someone I know and trust very well, and if I don't know, I'm touched a certain way, or the voice raises to a certain pitch, like immediately I shut down a little inside, just a little bit, and then I have to remind myself it's fine. But like, there's something instinctive that happens, some kind of protection barrier that goes up. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on with Bloodstains by Gaslight, is that the trauma never goes away.
Yeah, well, I think you definitely touched on it in a way that it's just reach right into that thing and grabbed it by the heart here.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started writing this out, then, so you started writing this in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take for you to get something this personal out and essentially turn this horrible source of the trauma into a blood-sucking creature of the night? Which would seem like a lot of fun, and you're like, this son of a bitch is going to get it. But at the same time, again, you're having to go through all the reasons he's going to get it. So what was that kind of like for you? I guess that's a couple questions I'm asking you, as far as like how long it took you to get all that out in a first draft, and that process of actually getting it all out in the first draft.
So with Bloodstains by Gaslight, it was easier than it was with that first book I wrote back in 2014. I think that was my trauma vomit. I was just getting it all out, and it took like almost a year. I cried every day for a year while I wrote it. And so when I did Bloodstains by Gaslight, I was older. I was coming at it from a more mature and sensible angle, and a more mentally stable angle. And I don't remember how long it took to write. Most novels for me take, a few months. Like, some of them might take upward of like 8 months, depending on, I'm not sure. I don't remember how long it took me to write this one. It was probably something like 6 to 8 months, I'm guessing. But that's just for that first draft. I kept stopping because I felt like I wasn't doing it right. But I got some advice from people at cons, and they just told me to just fucking go for it. so I did. So I just went in and I said, okay, I'm just gonna write it. I'm gonna write it the way I see it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's gotta be such a weird feeling. I mean, how do you write something? Because obviously you're writing for an audience. You want it to be good and entertaining and well received, so that people want to read more of you and enjoy that book and talk about it. But at the same time, you also want to do, the personal aspect of it to you justice. Did you find that was a bit of a balance when, writing for you versus the audience, or are you one of many that's like, I'm just going to write the book for me, and then hopefully people come along for the ride? Or what was your thought process in that, if there was much,
Um,
or as that goes?
the I always kind of keep the audience in mind just a little bit, just for the sake of
Yeah,
storytelling, not so much what people want to see or what they want to read,
sure.
but just as for a purpose of storytelling, whether or not it's got a good, arc, whether or not it's got, good pacing and whatnot. And so I do keep the reader in mind for that. But otherwise, I kind of wrote it for me. I knew I wanted to write the abuse story. I knew that was a story I had to get out there. And it was a story worth telling, because everybody's story is different. So I figured I'd just tell this one story. But I knew I wanted it to be horror, and I wanted it to be paranormal a little bit. So I figured, what better villain other than a vampire to signify an abuser?
Absolutely, yeah. This just absolutely, completely narcissistic, horrible human being that is there literally sucking the lifeblood out of his victims, and out of the relationship, etc. And the one thing, like, right off the bat, Reese, who's of course the woman that has to go through some of this horrible stuff in the book, what I thought was really interesting is that she was ready to break up with this poor guy, and then it got so much worse.
Yeah.
As if, if you're really feeling that way, then maybe you shouldn't hesitate so much. And then, of course, her boyfriend Michael, he's having a day from hell, and then he obviously gets sort of dragged a little bit deeper into hell by getting turned into a creature of the night. Which is not a spoiler. You find that out in the first couple of pages. I think that's even on the synopsis of the book as well.
It is.
So not a big spoiler, guys. So that, I thought that was really interesting. Is that now the story of how he got turned and Reese breaking up with him, was that always kind of part of the storyline?
It was, and I think that's the story of a lot of abuse victims. Like,
Right.
I'm going to preface anything I say with the fact that everybody has a different story. It's not always a boy who's the abuser and a girl who's the victim, of course. That was just this story. And not every abuse victim feels insecure. They don't all feel worthless. There's so many stereotypical depictions of abuse, and the abuser is always like some drunk asshole, very one-dimensional, and the victim is just this crying girl that doesn't have any self-esteem whatsoever, and she believes everything her abuser says about her, and that's just not true of every case. So in this, I'm sorry, I forgot the question. I got side-railed.
No, that's totally cool. No, I mean, this is your story. And I was just wondering about the aspect of it where you had Reese so close to breaking up with Michael before everything turned to shit. Was that intentional? I mean, was that part of kind of your story back then too, or was it more a matter of if you're starting to feel this way, like, get out before it gets worse, because it's only going to get worse.
And that's where I was going with it. Getting out isn't always easy. For some people, getting out is actually more dangerous than just staying and putting up with it. For some people, they feel a real physical threat to their life or a threat to people they love. So sometimes people stay in the relationship because they don't see a safe way out. And so that was the case for Reese. Well, with the case for Reese, at first she stayed with him just because she kind of felt bad for him. He was threatening suicide. So she kept staying with him, and just missing all these opportunities to just end it. And then when she finally decided to do it, he gets into this car accident. And, what kind of person would she be if she breaks up with him after the car accident? So she gives it just a little bit more time. And like her indecisiveness and her kind of waiting, it had backfired on her. It didn't work out.
Yeah, it's like she kept pushing the finish line a little further ahead and said, okay, once I get through this part, I'll take care of it. No, once you get through this part, and then all of a sudden she didn't know where the finish line was at a certain point.
Yep. Yeah. And that was kind of my case too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in then. So for anyone who doesn't know, in between the ages of 13 and 19, I was in an abusive relationship. I was with someone who was very controlling and jealous and manipulative and emotionally abusive and occasionally and randomly physically abusive. And it didn't start that way. We started out like really, really good friends, like best friends. And things were good for about a year or so. And then they weren't anymore. And they just progressively got worse. Yeah. And so that's kind of what happened to Reese to a degree. She started out really good friends with them. They're best friends.
Yeah.
They only have each other. And then, he starts changing.
Yeah, and all of a sudden the honeymoon's kind of over, and for him it's a forever thing,
Mm-hmm.
like a trap.
Yep.
One of the most, I thought, for me, was such a poignant section of the book, and I'm trying to put this into words that it's not going to be a spoiler, but might have been the most terrifying part of the book for me, was watching Michael as he's just giving Reese absolutely, just being a complete enveloping shadow to her physically and emotionally. She just can't escape this dude. Even when she realizes the gig is up, he is a monster, figuratively and and literally in the novel. And he keeps hunting her down, but even as he's hunting her down, he's sort of slips, like almost like a snake, where he's kind of slipping around, public society kind of thing, and he's fitting into places that, as a regular human being should be able to fit in, but it almost comes across like a dark comedy, because as the reader, we know what's really going on, and here this person is masquerading as a human when he's so far from being that, and gets away with it. And even though she's being seen with him in broad daylight, she's still terrified. Hey, can you help me? Can't you see what kind of a monster I'm with? And obviously the way that he kind of disguises himself, he's completely fits in with it. And I thought that was just absolutely terrifying. It really made me realize like what a terrible, well-dimensioned monster that this is that you've created.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it was just a little too easy to create because because I've been there. I've been walking down the hallway with someone who just said and did horrible, horrible things, and I've got red eyes, puffy eyes. Nobody notices. Nobody, because everybody's just kind of in their own world. It's not anyone's responsibility to notice. And so that's what happened with Reese. Like she didn't come out and say it to anybody. And so nobody knew.
Yeah, and it's spooky that way too. Nobody just wants to get involved. I remember I had an ex-girlfriend who she minored in psychology and or criminology rather in university. And one of the things that I thought was pretty spooky and scary was, I guess, somebody who was they were a criminal investigator, came in and they were giving somebody advice if they got, for example, sexually assaulted. If anybody's walking down the street, or a lot of people walking down the street, and they're screaming rape, help me, that's not your best option to do that. You're better off screaming at fire, because that's something that is exciting. Everybody wants to get involved and see all the action with that, but when it's sexual assault happens, like nobody wants to get involved, and they think that's happening to other people. I don't want to get involved in that. And that really struck home for me when I was reading this novel too, and the amount of people that should have been there to help Risa just didn't see it.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that was.
I wish I had more to say on that.
No. So when you're writing all of this, was that did you find as you're going through it all, did that help teach you about some things that you wish you had known before when I was going through it? Thought, wow, now that I can see it more looking back, this is maybe the advice I would give to somebody else that might be going through going through that?
So, I don't know about advice. It's so hard to give advice about that because everybody's story is different. And not everybody can just up and leave, especially people who are in situations where they have kids,
Right.
So what's great about today is that there are more resources readily available. There are
Thankfully, yeah.
places online that we can go and we can delete our browser history and we can find help that way, or reach out to a trusted friend. But a lot of people, once they're at this point where they realize things are bad, a lot of people, I don't want to say it's too late. It's never too late. It's just really hard. It's just really hard to walk away because the threat feels so high. While I was writing this, things I realized, so in my 20s, after I walked away when I was 19. I spent my 20s scared and angry, mostly angry at him and angry at myself, because I felt like I should have done more. I should have left earlier. I lost my teen years because of this, and I should have done something about that. And then as I got into my 30s and I had my own kids, little kids, that's when I wrote the first version, the 2014 abuse story. And I was still angry. I was mostly angry at him. And I was starting to, at that point, relieve myself of some of that culpability because I was just a freaking kid. I was a kid.
Right.
And then it wasn't until I wrote this one.
Yeah.
I started writing it in my early 40s. I have teenagers now. I can look back at it a little more maturely and sensibly. And when I wrote this, I wrote one line that really kind of was really powerful. And it's probably a line that every reader will just kind of breeze over and it won't mean anything. But the line was simple. It was like, they were two broken kids. They were just two broken kids. And that line, like when I wrote it, when it came out of me, I just thought, wow, like, yeah, like we were just two kids. And I immediately, like, the anger was gone. I was no longer angry at him. It's
Wow.
forgiven not in the sense of like absolving him of
Right.
responsibility, but just the fact that I'm not holding on to it anymore. Yeah. I can let it go. I'm not angry about it anymore. We were just kids. Like in Michael's character, he had a history. He had his own issues that he was dealing with. And that made him, when I wrote him for this book, it made him this fully dimensional character with reasons of his own. Not that they're okay, but he had his reasons.
He was a sympathetic villain for sure.
Yeah. And so that's what I took away from writing this book, was just it actually helped me let go of a lot of the anger that I was holding on to.
Well, that is an incredible journey. That's amazing. And thanks a lot for sharing that too. That's obviously something that is extremely personal, that shaped your life and is still affecting it, obviously, as you mentioned. And that's amazing too. That part of me, sorry.
I'm shaking. Shaking through the whole video.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing that too, because I mean that's an amazing thing that you're in that position where you can take all of this and not just have a place to put it, such as maybe the trunk or the whatever drawer your 2014 story is. I guess that shall forever be I don't know, I was going to make a vampire trope of it around him, but it's going to stay where it is, kind of thing. But it's amazing that you're able to take all that and put it into such a structured piece of what is really fantastic entertainment as well, and very meaningful, and actually put that out there to the world as well. But that's gotta feel kind of weird that awesome to be able to share that, but at the same time, it's here's my heart.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing to do. But that was part of this whole journey from over the past 20 something. Well, God, it was 1998 when I left.
Yeah.
that relationship. And so there's a lot of anger and blaming and shame and embarrassment. But I'm done. I'm 46 years old. This is part of my past. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I'm not embarrassed that I didn't step up and do anything. I was a kid. Um, it's just something that happened, and I learned from it, and it helped me grow to become the person I am now. So I'm okay now. I'm and I'm not gonna like shy away from talking about it. I don't like to talk too much about specifics of it, not publicly anyway.
Sure.
Because again, he was just a kid too, and again, he's not absolved of his part of what happened, but
Right.
I mean, we were just kids, so it's done and over.
Yeah. Nope, that's amazing, and it's thank goodness I'm so happy for you too that you're able to look back on it that way as well. You know, I remember once I was in a counseling session myself, and especially things happen when you're really younger too. You don't realize how young you truly are,
Mm.
and I'll never forget something. Since we're kind of opening up on the couch here, um, but I remember the psychologist said to me, "He's like, hey, imagine that little kid going through all this stuff. What would you say to him?" And, she was very good at what she did. So she got me in the frame of mind of that little kid. And then it's like really looking back on that, you realize like, well, yeah, of course things went down the way they went down if you're two broken, people. And in your book too, that's very much how I thought it was, is that, Michael was basically this broken toddler that never really got fixed and always just sort of stayed in that mode, except now he's a toddler with, very adult responsibilities and expectations, and obviously in his case of your book, with some pretty monstrous abilities, and these a hunger for, unfortunately, having to wreak even more damage, whether he there's any hope of resolution for him at all, or absolution rather.
I'm glad you see it. I'm glad you.
Yeah.
I was really worried about putting this book out, not out of my heart being out there, not because of the vulnerability,
Sure.
but just that people wouldn't get it. And that's still a risk, that people are going to read it and they're going to be angry that Reese isn't just this inherently strong 18-year-old girl who makes all the right decisions, and they're going to be mad probably about the ending. Be mad about a lot of things. But that's the point. It's supposed to be mad. Get
absolutely mad. Yeah, you got to shake people up, right? Yeah. This isn't this isn't Twilight. This is real life. So it's important sometimes to be mad at the right things in real life. And I think that's what this book will do. And certainly at the end of it, man, that's a gut punch. I'm not going to even talk much about it because people need to experience that. But people's experience. So because I don't want people listening to this, and maybe they're going through some stuff that they don't have a good base, or they're still working on that. They're not really ready to maybe dive into this kind of material, but at the same time, they're here because they love vampires. They love, maybe they just went and saw, Nosferatu or something, or all the other vampire movies are coming out. Like, yeah, I want to read a good vampire book, but I don't know if I'm ready for this kind of a vampire book. What do you think you would maybe say to those people, as far as what is it about your particular brand of vampire that's going to appeal to fans of monsters and vampires within the horror?
So my vampire, I'd like to say my vampire is different than all the other vampires. We all like to say that. I think this story is different in the sense that it's not the sexy romanticized vampires. It's not the vampires who are, they're purring in dark rooms and in the city, and there's not this big hierarchy that we get into. There's not a lot of lusty romance stuff. And it's also not necessarily the vampires that are Nosferatu style, or the monstrous looking vampires. And somewhere in between. They're just humans going through kind of an evolutionary change that make them the way they are. and I think it's the human aspect of the story that is the scary part of it. You strip away the vampire, you still have a really terrifying story of a person's power over another person.
Yeah,
They're
100%.
taking away someone else's power.
Yeah, in that scene, it starts pretty early on, when when Trevor meets Michael.
Mm-hmm.
It starts pretty early on, but that very first scene that you have of a vampire draining somebody else's blood was just, honestly, that was one of the best depictions of blood sucking that I've read in a book before. That was just disgusting and scary, and visceral. I could hear the sounds going. It was awful. It actually reminded me, and I know you
I'm like
read this
smiling
before.
while you're like, it was awful.
Oh, it was terrible. It was fantastic, and it honestly reminded me a little bit. Speaking on Nosferatu, one of the most powerful scenes in that movie. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the one where you see, not Nosferatu, where he's actually Orlok, where he's sucking the blood of the person. I think it's the first victim that he takes, where he just lunges right on them. You can hear these big, huge, deep gulps, and it's just
freaking like right from the.
Yeah, and it's like just so animalistic, and reading that scene when, your first kill scene or blood sucking scene of the book, that reminded me of that too, and it was just awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, there's nothing really poetic or nice or romantic at all. It was just, it was very good. So I agree. Yeah, your vampires are a nice touch of kind of in between, where even the romance stuff, like there's no real romance in there, but he tries to, much like Bela Lugosi's Dracula, tries to charm poor Reese, but he kind of fails at that miserably.
Yeah,
and I guess that's the sympathetic part, is that he tries, but at the same time, it's like it's all a bunch of bull crap. That's just not part of his design.
And my vampires also, they don't really drink the blood. They siphon through their teeth. Their teeth are like little pointy proboscis, right?
You're the expert.
And they siphon the blood so that they can give their body the blood it needs.
Yeah, and they've got, and because of that, I thought it was really cool, where they have a really cool side effect if they overindulge. Not just it affects them in so many different ways, much like an addiction. It's, I guess, like anything. Hey, sugar could be great, but if we overindulge, it's going to affect us maybe psychologically, physically. And these vampires are very much like that too. So I thought that was, I haven't really seen a whole lot of that before. Maybe people puke or whatever, but that's in vampires. By people, I mean vampires. But yeah, it was a really cool. I thought that was a really cool effect that you did on that. What if they have too much, because they're, kind of off the charts? They go berserk.
Thank you.
So yeah, I thought that was very cool. And how was it for you too? Because I know I'm trying. I always love when to talk to people about books that don't necessarily get published in the order they get written, because I know this is technically your first novel, but you've got some stuff behind me here as well. You've written shorter stuff before, short stories, etc. But did you already have the Necrotic Heart? It's been a while. Thank you. I reviewed it. I should know. Impulses of a Necrotic Heart and an Excess of Dark. Did you have those two basically in the bag and completely done before you started Bloodstained by Gaslight?
No, I finished Bloodstains by Gaslight before I wrote An Excess of Dark.
Oh, that's interesting.
They just happened to, they got they got mixed up in the publishing order. But yeah, they were right around the same time period. So 2020, what was it? What did I do in 2020? It's a short story. And I don't even know.
Found your bubble.
I know. I can't remember anything. I think I was working on. I wrote Bloodstains by Gaslight in 2021. I wrote An Excess of Dark in 2022, and I think during that time I was putting together the stories for Impulses.
Okay,
I think so.
That's cool.
And this actually isn't my first novel. I had a novel that came out in 2017 that's no longer in print. I self-published a novel called Fairhaven. It's a zombie novel.
Okay. You
So
don't
that,
sound happy about it. Like it's okay to love zombies and
I
vampires too.
know.
I mean, it's not, you know.
Well, I love the story. It does need a rewrite. It does need a rewrite though. That's why I
Yeah.
removed it from publication because I think it needs a little work. But I
Like,
stand by the story.
good, good. I mean, a lot of writers have said that to me, and I hope that I can one day be one of them. Where, and I kind of am in a sense, where you look back at stuff you wrote before, and you're like, that sucks. You know, and I guess you would hope that you do that, even if it's great and well
Mhm.
received. You would hope that it doesn't represent the writer that you are today. If you know, if you wrote
Right.
it, 20, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, what have you. So,
Mhm. No,
um,
it's I stand by the story. The story I like the story. It's a story about a veterinarian who it's kind of a romance too. It's like a romance
yeah,
zombie novel.
okay,
And I I'm happy with it, but I do know it needs a rewrite. I don't want it out there because if I'm going to be looking for an agent, if I'm going to be trying to sign,
yeah,
I don't want that, like you said, as representative of my work. I'd rather spruce that up, fix it up a little bit, and then put it back out.
very cool. Now, is that going to be your focus as well as trying to hunt down an agent and have that book maybe polished up and ready to rock? Or are you looking at focusing on other projects before that? Is that
No,
kind of just on the side sort of thing?
that's I keep talking about rewriting it, and I started a revision a while back,
Okay.
but I kind of got tied up with other projects that were more pressing.
Right.
Right now, I'm working on a new novel, completely new novel, and it's witches.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or is it way too early to?
It's very early. I'd rather not yet. But I will say over the past year or so, I've been I've been exploring witchcraft a little
Okay.
bit. Um, in a very as scientifically as possible, if that even makes sense.
I think so. So you're looking
Yeah.
more at the like kind of the spells and potions and
The so some
manifestation side of it, or
herbal, so of course some herbal remedies, which makes sense. That's not witchcraft; it's just medicine.
sure.
Um, but a lot of meditation, a lot of opening up, kind of opening up to the universe and connecting with nature. I know that doesn't sound scientific, but I've been reading some books. Anyway, I'm really excited about this kind of newfound connection to nature and the universe that I have developed over the past few months, and I'm kind of incorporating it into this bloody witchy novel.
That is awesome. It's like, oh, that sounds really sweet. Ah. In the hands of the witches. Well, and no, I think it's. I mean, I think in a sense, I mean, spirit. There's a fine. They say there's a fine line between, brilliance and insanity, but I think there's also a fine line between spirituality and science as well. I think they go
Absolutely.
hand in hand a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a yin and yang kind of thing. I mean, if you're able to kind of get out there, even having a forest bath, they say it's supposed to be really good for you. And it's like, yeah, sure, you walk in the woods, you smell stuff. It's, what does that do? But it's true though, if you really let yourself go and you get rid of all the clutter that's every day
Yep.
and allow yourself to actually relax enough to slowly take in all the extra oxygen of the soils and everything else that's around you, it can absolutely have a good, profound effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And there's so many people who are they're so ready to believe in ghosts and spirits, and they believe in an afterlife, and they believe in God. But I mean, we can't explain any of that with science yet. Yet we believe in it. But all the things that happen that we can't explain is simply because we don't have the science to explain it yet.
absolutely. Yeah, we
So,
just don't have the answers yet, or maybe we
yeah.
don't have the questions yet.
Yeah.
It definitely goes both ways. Yeah, I love what the heck is his name? Brian Cox. That guy's a trip to listen to.
Yeah.
He's just brilliant. I mean, he looks like he could pass for some college kid. Like, I don't know how he does it. I think he's
Yeah, he's like in a
in
rock
his
band.
50s or something. Is he really?
Or he
I didn't know.
was. Yeah, I think he used to be.
That's awesome. I guess. And of course, he's going to be in a rock band of all music, right? Because I'm thinking like he's into rocks and and astrology and everything else as well. And it just, his fascination, and he talks a lot about spirituality as well as, of course, science, as well. And, about if there's an infinite universe, well, where would the creator fit into something that never ends, because it never really began and never really ends. And then, just some of the different philosophies I know that he talks about, and kind of pans out and talks about the things that we do know, which has given us suspicion about things that we don't know. And it's, I just find him fascinating. He's, I try listening once in a while if I'm at work and I'm able to. Yeah,
I haven't heard anything from him in a while. I'll have to look him up and see what he's doing recently.
Yeah, I have no idea. You're probably asking the wrong person. I subscribe to him, but I basically just get whatever YouTube recommends to me now and again, and I'll be like, okay, cool. I never wanted to check how long ago it was, and just like Brian Cox, how long is it? I'm in kind of thing. But no, I find that fascinating too. To back up a little bit, that you wrote, well, really, I guess 3 novels before you got back into some of the shorter stuff. Usually it's the other way around, where you kind of test the waters and you learn how to write a short story, then you learn how to write a novella, and then you learn how to write a novel kind of thing. But do you find that there's really much of a difference? Like if somebody's really, there's just some people are just fantastic at one thing, but they're still good at the other stuff. But do you find that each one of those 3 is kind of its own animal, and it takes its own special mindset and approach and proper skill set as far as structuring it? And what do you think, since you've done
I think short stories are their own little animal. Short stories and Flash, they just, for me anyway, it's a completely different process. Some of the planning for it is similar. I need to have some kind of concept and a little bit of a plot, a character that's going to go through it. And that's really all I need for a short story. And then I can just pump out a short story in a few hours. And by the end of the week, I have something polished. I have something that's been beta read, and I can submit it, And so I like short stories, and they're really good practice, especially for writing tight, solid fiction. Novellas and novels, I don't do those, and I do those similarly. I don't really, there's nothing different about the way I write a novella versus a novel, other than the amount of time it takes to write. If the story is big enough, it's a novel. If it's not, then it's a novella. Actually, with In Excess of Dark, when I was done writing that, it was really short, and I thought I could probably add to it and make this a novel. I thought about expanding on the father a little bit, putting in his point of view and what Karina's father went through with his mental decline. And I thought readers would love that, but I chose not to. And I chose to leave it in a novella because the story was supposed to be just Karina's story. She's selfish in nature. She's very self-focused. She lives in her own head all the time, and that's where I wanted the reader. I didn't want the reader anywhere else other than in her head.
Yeah, no, I think that was the right call for that, and it left it a bit of a mystery as well. And like you said, it left it a bit of a mystery to her, but not one that is selfish as she was. She didn't really need to dwell on it too much.
Right.
For her, that was just some, not a good person. I guess that's all she needed to know about him.
Yeah.
So, now when you write any length of story, maybe not so much a short story, but I think you plot it out a little bit, or you have a bit of an outline? I think you mentioned before.
For writing, I'm sorry, for books or stories?
For novels and novellas.
It varies.
Or does that change a bit? Okay.
It does. It changes every time. I normally plot very heavily, and then I found that I was getting myself into these corners. I'd write myself into corners because I'd want to add or change things. So then I started plotting really loosely and being able to change things as I go, and that worked for a while. But now with this book that I'm working on, the witch book, I can't do it. I can't plot it at all because there's too many variables that keep changing. And so I have a very loose plot. I have my characters and their backstory. I have kind of the concept and the magic backstory. And then I have the ending, and that's all I have. And so I just have to,
What else do you need?
right, I'm going to pants it out.
Yeah,
Just
and it's
see
what
what
you're doing some
happens.
method writing too. It sounds like by getting
Mm-hmm.
into the the witch zone and the mindset and the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how it started. I was like, well, I need to know a little more about witchcraft. I'm going to write a witch book. So I started reading up on it and I really liked it. And then a couple of people recommended some other books to me. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of science, isn't it? I,
It is.
and then I started doing a lot of the meditative practices, and my mental health like has been better than it has been in a very long time.
That's a
Um,
one.
yeah, the past like first half of 2024 was rough. It was so hard. It was one of the hardest years of my life, mentally. And then, around June or so, I started meditating. I started taking care of myself. I started just working on me, and I've been doing better. I've been doing a lot better.
Good. No, that's so amazing. And I love your once in a while you'll show pictures of these amazing walks that you go on as well. And
Mhm.
I think the last one that I saw at least was you walking through the ocean and you kind of scanned in, the sand between your toes kind of thing, and then you go up and there's like, oh, just nothing like the ocean. I can't wait to
Yeah.
get back out that way before. I went out there last year. I've never seen an ocean in my life. I live in a city that is not near
Mhm.
one, and I've just not seen one. So I finally went last year when I was at the AuthorCon, which obviously I want to talk to you about that as well because I'm
Okay.
super excited information for you to share about that because you're not just doing, you're not just doing well, you're doing fantastic. But yeah, just getting out there to Virginia Beach for the first time and seeing the ocean and the sun coming up, I'm like, I there's a lot of chemicals going on to make the sun and the ocean, the water, and all that stuff. So that's the science part of it. But it was
Mhm.
absolutely a spiritual experience just watching that come up over the ocean. Hardly
Yeah.
anybody else around, and
Mhm.
it was so nice.
Yeah, sunrises are my favorite.
Yeah,
I like them. I like them so much more than sunsets. I
yeah,
don't know.
me
It's
too.
a great start to the day.
Yeah.
It's like charging yourself for the day.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's like yeah, watching that your little energy level, like a video game, kind of going up with the
Mhm.
sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I liked it so much that actually you can't really see it's not in frame here, but I've got I actually took some of the beach home with me. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I did.
So
And I
they've
guess if
got
I wasn't
plenty of
supposed
it.
exactly, hey, I've been watching a lot of Border Patrol on TV, so I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
if I wasn't supposed to have that, they would have made sure I didn't get it. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I brought some of the shells and the sand. I've got it behind me over there in a little jar, and that's my Virginia
Nice.
Beach. Not the same thing though. We'll get back out there. So, speaking of some exciting things, and the next time that I'm out and around that area is I'm excited because I'm going to be for the first time vending at the AuthorCon 4 in
Yay.
Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm super excited about that. I get to share a table with Craig Wesley Wall, so that's going to be super awesome. Super nice guy. My good friend Alex, our friend Alex, introduced
Mhm.
him to me last year. We got along great, so I'm like, hey, do you want to sit and stare at each other's faces all day and sell some books? So we're in, but it's way more exciting for you though because you're going to be a guest of honor there.
I don't know about way more exciting.
Well, I'm excited about
You're
that. It's
excited.
just pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. It's awesome anytime. I mean, it's awesome going to AuthorCon just as a guest and just walking around.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm so excited about being a guest of honor. I don't know how to handle that piece of information. I'm
Yeah.
so nervous. But in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's about time you got your flowers, for this stuff. So it's kind of cool. And
I told, so, Brian Keene reached out and asked if I'd be a guest of honor. And of course I said yes, but my first reaction was to be like, I don't have that many readers. Like, I've got a few, I've got a few people
come
who
on.
who like my stuff, but I'm like, I don't know if I have the readership. And that's what I wanted to tell him. And I did express that to him eventually, but he didn't seem concerned. He
Yeah.
said, nope, I invited you for a reason because I see more and more people at your table every single year at this event. And your following is building, even if you're not seeing it directly in your sales. Like I see it at your table every year, more and more people visiting you. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So I'm really excited. Hopefully I don't screw up.
I don't think so. I think you've already done what it takes to not screw up. So I think you're pretty good, because I think as a guest of honor, obviously it's going to put you more up front and center as far as the posters, the advertisement and stuff for it. So, I think you've already got some pretty amazing work out there that when people flock in there, they're going to get exactly what they came there for. So that's a good thing, I think.
Thank you.
So the work is done. You just gotta, keep being you, Red. Just show up.
Show up.
It's going to be fantastic. Yeah.
I just ordered my books for that. I just ordered my copies of Bloodstains by Gaslight. So I'll have, and the book comes out that weekend, the weekend of the event.
Oh, that's amazing. What good timing for that, eh? That's really good.
Yep.
Really good. And don't pull it Eric the Rock, and don't take like 10 books with you thinking that's all you're going to sell. So take them all. You're going to sell lots, I think.
Poor Eric. Yeah, I remember that. He didn't think he'd really sell that many. I'm like, what are you thinking? You're Eric.
Yeah, are you insane? Yeah, it's so funny. I hope he comes better prepared this year. I think that he will. I think that he will. Then sorry, my camera's doing some funny stuff on us here. So let me see if I can get it so it's not.
He just did an event at the Strand in New York City, so that's really cool.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him doing that.
Clay and Rachel Harrison, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. That's really cool.
Yeah, I remember Clay, but I don't remember the other person. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my camera. It's going all. Well, can't we stay still, camera? Stay still.
It's following the ghost behind you.
Don't say that to me, because it probably is. Well, I've got the only closest that I have to a ghost, if I'm going the right way here, is where is he there? Yeah, there he is, Johnny Gerson. So it's funny. So I did one convention here at the DreadCon actually that we had locally, literally in my own backyard. It's going to be a few more miles out for this year, but I guess last year I went to it. 2024. So, and I brought Johnny Gerson with me because I thought he was cool. So he's actually, he was a mask that Monster Matt Patterson made for my friend Greg Lamberson's Johnny Gerson movie. And he did all kinds of cool work. So I got him and I thought I should bring him with me, but I'm not going to bring him this time though. So he won't be there at this con. I don't want to have to explain that to customs. Yeah. It's like, somebody told me how I could get ahead around here. And so I thought I'd bring my own. No, that's super exciting. You're going to be a guest of honor there, and that's now. Does that make you more busier? So, are you going to be doing? Are there be some cool panels, extra panels that you're going to be on and reading? And
I don't know. I think so. I know when I signed the contract as a guest of honor, I signed that I'll do readings and panels. So pretty much whatever they sign me up for.
Cool, very cool.
So we'll see. I don't have that schedule yet though.
Right. Yeah. I guess I know I just filled mine out. I think the deadline for that was last week, I think. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it to this guy, Mr. Procrastination. I saw that and I thought, I could do some panels. That was kind of fun. I did one at the DreadCon and I was never done one before. So I thought, why not go outside my comfort zone? So whether they need me, I'm sure they'll have much, more entertaining people than I that have already signed up probably, such as yourself. So. So I know there's some you've got some other cool things. Just in kind of leaving things off again. Thanks so much for the time and for completely opening up your heart and your soul to all of us, random people here on YouTube. So I really appreciate that. So, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this as well. Whether they come to it from trying to figure out, maybe how to build a base if they're going through some of that trauma themselves, how to maybe have the courage to write it out, or maybe they just want a freaking awesome balls to the wall vampire book. They're going to come and check this out. But you also, as far as the future stuff goes for your Red, I know In Excess of Dark, which is right behind me. I tell you, I'm mirrored by camera, so I don't know which side I need to be pointing at anything now. So Excess of Dark just behind me there is coming out here. I'll hold it up. Actually, it'll probably make more sense. So I need a cinematographer over here. So Excess of Dark, which is completely badass as well. And that's getting a bit of a much like a vampire. It's sort of getting a new lease on life, isn't it?
I
Can
think so. Yeah, it's
you tell a bit about that? Maybe not
that
so much all the
release.
fiasco that led to the fall of Darklit, but what's
Yeah.
happening with it at least.
That released originally in March, so almost a year ago,
Yeah.
March 2024, and that was through Darklit Press. And but then Darklit shortly after went under, and right before they announced some of the things that were happening, I asked for my rights back and got my rights back, and so it immediately got a new home. Well, almost immediately, like within a month or so, got a new home with Sobolo Books, which is a pretty new press, like brand new. It's run by Elsie Marino and LP Hernandez.
Okay.
So they picked it up. I got a fresh edit from LP Hernandez, and we kept the cover because the cover artist Ben Arrington was kind enough to let me continue to use it.
Sure.
And yeah, and I put new illustrations in it. I decided to like spruce it up a little bit and add some drawings, and so the whole inside, it's each chapter is illustrated.
Well, and you did the illustrations, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's so cool. And is that going to be with you? Oh, pardon me, sorry.
It's all charcoal grief art. I say illustrated, but it's not so much illustrated to the story. It's just kind of grief art that kind of coincides with each chapter a little bit.
Okay, that'd be really cool to see. Are you going to have that copy of it at the AuthorCon as well?
Yep, I sure will.
Awesome. Well, please do put one slide for me. Good. Okay. My camera's just going wonky on us here.
That's all right. Keeps it dynamic.
That's exactly what I'm going for. I'm doing the whole shaky cam kind of thing here, found footage. So if you're reading this, come find me. That's so funny. No, that's fantastic. I'm really glad that it's getting a new life and that it didn't take you very long, because that was frankly just a bunch of crap that went down, and not in a very nice way, with Darklit. So not everybody came out of it that is fortunate. So thankfully, some of them, like yourselves, will at least be able to see the light of day in the work that you did. So that'll be really exciting. And is that what the future holds for Red in 2025? Is kind of promoting that one? You of course have Gaslight, or Bloodstains by Gaslight, coming out in the end of March, and you're working on a badass witch book right now. Is there anything else going on? Because I'm assuming that that's not going to be ready for us to gobble up in 2025. So do you have anything else for us, greedy hounds?
I don't. So I got behind on things for several months, and I wasn't able to work on the books. So there's a good 6 months or so there where I wasn't writing, and so I got way behind. But things are going well now, and I'm writing. So I don't know what's going to come out in 25, if anything. Well, I guess this came out in 2025.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm hoping I want to write 2 more books this year. I want to write them this year. The witch book I'm hoping to have done by early summer. At least have a draft done that I can start editing. And hopefully have a first draft done by the end of the year. And those I'll be trying to pitch to someone eventually.
Perfect. And now, are you planning on them all being novel length, or is that something you're not even sure about at this point yet?
I'm probably going to aim for novels. Yeah, for the witch book, I'm aiming for a novel, and that shouldn't be hard because it's got enough to be a novel.
Right.
The book after that, I'm kind of excited to work on, because it might be a rewrite of a novella that is already written that I never did anything with. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. So that's on the back burner for now. But my wheels are turning on how to fix it. And I've got some good ideas. So yeah. So for the next several months, I'm just going to be writing.
Perfect. And then once it all starts coming, it's going to be a giant tidal wave of red, just like the scene from The Shining. Maybe. No, that's super exciting. I'm really glad to hear that the cylinders are kind of firing off, and
Mhm.
things are rocking with you. And you mentioned that you're going to be actively hunting down an agent now or soon, which I guess would make sense that you're going to focus on more novel length stuff.
Probably once the witch book is written, once I have it written and beta read and revised and polished, once I have a product to pitch, then I might be looking at pitching to agents.
Gotcha.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. And obviously, you're going to be in fantastic company all through the spring, summer with, going through the conventions, amazing people. And speaking of which, so where can people find you? What's the best way to keep in touch with all of your twisted, amazing books and what you're doing?
Well, you can go. I'm trying to be better about updating my website. So redlagoe.com. I'll be doing an update sometime soon. Because social media is so volatile right now. You just don't know what's going to last and what's not. I'm still on Twitter, but
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, every time I log on to Twitter lately, I don't see anything from people I want to see things from. And I used to have it really well curated where I didn't get all the arguments. I didn't get anything I didn't want to see. I was just seeing stuff that I wanted to see. I had it well curated, and it doesn't work that way anymore because of some changes. So I might be leaving Twitter. I don't know. But I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And it's all at Red Lagoe. Just one word.
Perfect. Okay, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and I'm the same way too. I keep thinking, I mean, I don't even have a website really. I've got my podcast channel, but I really need to do a website as well because especially seeing what's going on with Twitter, really, unless you own it, it could go away at any minute.
Yep.
So it'd be nice to have a bit of a landing spot for it. So, all right, fantastic. No, again, really appreciate the time. And in the meantime, too, actually, I do want to. I feel like I would be remiss not mentioning this as well. Is that although you have been writing, and people maybe want to get some stuff of you, you are occasionally sort of leaving yourself out there for doing commission artwork, I believe, because I'm not going to tell people what it is. I'm not ready to show it yet, but you did an amazing friggin' back cover for a little collection that I'm currently putting together as well. I absolutely love that.
So
are you doing a? Pardon me?
It's going to be ready for Othicon?
If I have to sell my soul to do it, I'm not afraid to do it. It will happen. So if I happen to show up and maybe I look a little bit sunk and I've got, dark pools in my eyes, the important thing is that collection will be ready.
Nice.
But your artwork. So are you doing that kind of very openly? Is that something I maybe shouldn't even mention? Because now you're going to maybe have a flood of people saying, can you draw for me too?
I do it when I have the time. So, and I don't leave. It's not like I leave spots open every single month. Because I don't always have time every month. It's
sure.
It just depends on what I've got going on. But yeah, sometimes I'm open to commissioned artwork, illustrations, or cover art. But just if you're interested, just reach out. And if I can, I'll give you a quote. But if I can't, then don't take it personally. It's just because I don't.
Exactly.
But if you can't, it's me, and I got 2 books I got to write by the end of the year.
I know the books are the boss, right? The family and life and all that other wonderful stuff as well. So, but yeah, no, looking forward to that. And obviously, if anybody is around the Williamsburg, Virginia area, you can, I can test that you are an amazing human being that won't bite you the way that your books do. And if you do want to check out, obviously, your artwork too, the cool thing is that now, when can people actually start ordering the new iteration of In Excess of Dark? Is that available now for order?
Oh yeah, In Excess of Dark. The In Excess of Dark is out. Yeah, they can get that.
Okay, I feel like I should know that.
The illustrated one, yeah, the illustrated one's out. They can order that online, wherever books are sold online. Cool. And Bloodstains, this is available for pre-order. And that comes out at the end of March.
Beautiful. And I will put links for those down in the description down below as well, so people can click those and just go right there and have their next couple of reading sessions at late nights completely covered.
In Excess of Dark is a good one for anyone who needs like an end of the month padding on their reading list. If they're doing those reading challenges and they want to add an extra book, that's one of those one sitting books. If you if you need something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I found it was a really, really fast. I mean, I'm such a slow reader,
Me
but
too.
I absolutely burned through An Excessive Dark. It was pretty awesome. It's one of the books where I read that, and by the end of it, I feel like the author owes me some sleep.
Sorry.
But I'm like, he wrote this amazing book, so we'll call it even. But no, it's worth losing a few extra hours of sleep over if you read it at nighttime. So. All right, cool. Well, thank you very much again for the conversation, Rhett. It is always a pleasure. Cannot wait to see you in Virginia. It's going to be friggin' fantastic. And yeah, if you want to have any final words, throw them out there, and we'll land this plane, as they say.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me. Be kind to each other. Be aware of each other. If you have a teenager, ask a lot of questions.